Well, good morning to you. And I say morning because this is part of my morning practice session. I'm going to simplify it just a little bit because some of you may not know the scale patterns yet, at least all of them. I encourage students to start with the 6-2 scale, which starts on the 6th string with your second finger. Really, for now, any key will do. Probably G is a good one, the G scale, the 6-2 scale. But it's not just playing through the scale, mindlessly and just making sure you have it memorized. And then go to the next one. That's not it. The idea is to get more, is to do more stuff, is to pack more demands on your mind and on what you're doing, so you connect several things together. So the first thing to do that works really well is to stick with the 6-2 scale and set your metronome, your handy dandy metronome, which mine is, I have one on my iPad and I have one on my phone also, my iPhone, which is not as good as the other one, but it will suffice for what we're going to do today. And I set my metronome on 60 beats a minute. And I'm usually, mine's a little bit more complicated because I've been doing it for a lot longer. And that is, I set mine on 80, and then on Tuesday I up it one notch, and then on Wednesday I up it one notch. So I'm always pushing the limits on my technique. But so for the student who's just starting this idea, you're going to set your metronome on 60 or thereabouts. I recommend 60. 60 is pretty easy to do quarter notes. That's one note per tick. So you play the scale just like this. Now the challenge is to play exactly on the tick, which is harder to do at first. Usually people kind of rush a little bit. To be thinking about the scale pattern, the sound you're making, and really landing on that ictus of the beat, on the beat. Now that you've done one note per tick, now you're going to do two. You're going to do 3. Then you're going to do 4. Now, 4s, 3s, you're going to usually wind up on the beat at the end. So anyway, it's not a problem to deal with. We'll talk about that in a minute. So now we're doing 4, right? Now we're going to do 5, okay? 5 is tough. It really is. And then you're going to do 6, right? 6 notes to the tick. Or however, you don't have to end on the beat all the time. So what happens is as you begin to work through it, maybe you don't have the technique to pull it off just yet. So you may have to, when you get to 4s or 5s, you may have to really slow the metronome way down. Maybe try it at 40 or so. Whatever it takes to do it. You have to focus on what I call the target note. Now, target notes are talked about in chords as a certain thing. Let me turn this off. A target note is one that you're headed to in your solo that matches this is a chord tone. That's a target note, okay? But what I'm talking about, and I hate to use that term for this, but it is essentially what it is. A target note for what we're doing is the note that falls on the tick, right? So if you're having trouble with fours, let's say, then you could do this. So your first target note is the one that starts the scale off. The second target note is the next one that falls on the beat. So I know it's this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. There it is right there. So I'm going to work on that. Oop. Then I'm going to go to the next one. Or fives, you know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. So you're always looking for 1 or the target note. So what I recommend is you work the 6/2 scale and work all the note values up until you can do it at 60. You can play 1 note per tick, 2 notes per tick, 3 notes per tick, all the way to 6 at 60 beats a minute. Once you can do that, you start pushing that metronome up a little higher. And then as you're doing that with a 6/2, you take one of the other scale patterns and start working on it back at 60. So it's a long process, but you're getting so much out of it. You're working on your technique, your sound, especially on a classical guitar, on acoustic guitar, and you're learning to play different note groupings that will come in super handy. Now, then people will say, well, what about doing 7s, 8s, 9s, and 10s? Honestly, I think if you can do 1 through 6, which includes 5 notes to the tick, which is really, it's not that hard, it's just weird, It's really weird to do because it's really offset. But once you can do 5s, it's like the Karate Kid. If you've seen the Karate Kid, he says, oh, man who can catch fly with chopsticks can do anything. Well, a person who can play 5 notes to the tick can probably figure out how to do the others too. So, 5 is cool to do. So that's the thing on this morning practice session. That's kind of where you start this, and then in other videos we'll move on to other more complex things to add in, so that when you're doing your daily warm-up, you're really doing a lot of different things at once together. So you're getting a lot of, like I'd like to say, you're getting a lot of bang for your buck, for your practice buck. So there you go. Try it out, see how it goes. Okay, thanks, bye.